Yo and hello, everybody. I'm Mike. That's Danny Black. We are Hobby Think Tank tonight. We're your two guys. We've had some questions, Danny. We may want to clear this up for everybody. We've had people on the show make comments that we need to get some different guests, and they must not have seen the first episode. So maybe you could explain quickly what Hobby Think Tank is and how this show works, just as a refresher.
Sure. If there's anybody out there named Bob, pay attention. What we are is four people, and we rotate. Two people, two people, two people. Same four people. We just rotate. We talk about subjects. It's not an interview. We're just talking. We like to talk out the subject. That's all. It's fun.
All.
And then we go home peacefully.
Why do you keep talking to the same people? Because that's the whole point of the show. That's what this show is. Sometimes we'll have three of us. Sometimes we'll have all four of us. Rarely, but I thought we were going to do that tonight, Danny. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought we were going to have a little Hobby Think Tank menage a trois going on, but because Mike, our compatriot here on Hobby Think Tank, he was here at the house all afternoon. We spent looking through cards and telling stories and swapping lies and all that good stuff. And I thought he was going to hang around to be on Hobby Think Tank tonight. He instead needed to head back to Dallas. So he's not here, but it got me thinking a little bit of a think tank subject for us to discuss. And I'll ask you a question first, with the general idea of the show being public or private. How do we view our collections? Do we want them to be out there? Do we not want them to be out there? What made you, Danny, want to bring your collection into the public eye through social media?
So people may or may not know, I had my entire collection stolen when I was younger. So everything I had growing up in my early years as a dealer, everything was stolen. So I had to start from scratch. And part of getting into content creation was having to kind of get comfortable with that and knowing that I didn't have the collection that you have and being totally okay with that. It took me a long time to be that vulnerable, I guess. So, I still have times where I miss out on the stuff that I don't have, but I display what I love. There's not a whole lot more in the rest of the room. Sometimes there's more than others as I buy and sell, but I collect what I love, and I've come to terms with the fact that it's just going to take me, years to build back up to where I was.
It's interesting that you took that perspective at that question, because I was thinking about it completely from a different angle. I wasn't thinking about it from a collection envy standpoint. Like, I don't want to get on here because my collection may not live up to other collections that I watch on YouTube, or that I don't want to post anything on Instagram because my cards, I talk down to my cards about my cards or whatever. I didn't think it from that at all.
Really?
I was thinking purely from a secretive / protection standpoint. Because when I first decided to do YouTube a decade ago, my wife was like, "You're not going to show people your cards, are you? And show our house and show your face and tell your name and all these things, and basically give up our privacy, right? And put yourself out there publicly." I had a guy on one of my few months ago videos, but the comment was recent on a video. And he's like, "I cannot believe you're putting all this out." He made a comment, "I can't believe you're putting all this out there, that you're exposing yourself this way. I mean, would you put your bank account information on YouTube and all the da-da-da-da?" And although I completely disagree with that, I also, it does make one think, and Julie's concern wasn't completely invalid. By putting ourselves out there in the ways that we do expose ourselves to guys. I do know some collectors that have had their collection stolen, not just you, but several other guys. I don't think they would attribute that to being on YouTube or putting their collections on Instagram or Facebook or wherever they might do that. But, you know, how much do we think about that? Should we think about that?
Well, I will tell you, when I deal with clients' collections that I have in my possession, um, you'll never see it on camera.
Yeah.
That's 100% security. That safety deposit box off site. That's a whole different level. I just can't take the risk from that standpoint, and from a pure security standpoint. I won't do it. Now, to be fair, I also do a little bit of radio in Baltimore, and I get a little bit of a creep vibe every so often from people. I've been at an Oriole game, and I got a text message of a picture of me and my son in the stands that said, "We see where you're sitting. We're watching you." Um, right. So like, yeah. So like, just crazy stuff. So I'm very cautious on that side of it. But for my personal stuff, this is it. If somebody really wants the 54 Orioles team set, please don't break my door. I'll just hand it to you.
Right. And that's, you know, I think what we don't, maybe a lot of people that watch YouTube don't understand. And I've seen this, especially since chasing cardboard and, probably the last 6 or 7 years, really, of seeing other collections that make mine look like an absolute joke. And they don't tell anyone. Like I went and saw a collection one time a few years ago, and the guy's like, "You're like the third person I've ever shown any of this to." And it was pre-war everything. I mean,
How cool is that?
it was very cool. Uh, One guy, I went into his collection, and the guy had died, and the guy that got hired by the family to consign it to sell everything gave me kind of first dibs, and it was a warehouse. No
Wow.
joke, 30,000 square foot warehouse full of memorabilia and cards. It was the most odd, it was unbelievable. And I got to pick through it, and I bought a few cards, but no one was there. No one had ever seen it. It was all private. There are so many more private collections. I mean, it's 100x of guys that are public and guys that are private. I have friends that I have one friend in particular who will only do private Zooms, and he'll show me stuff in his collection. He's like, "I don't want to be on YouTube. I don't want any of this to be public." And he's also a public figure, so that would be a even bigger deal. But point being, there's so much private stuff that nobody ever sees. And I think it's because those people are scared to expose their families, their life, their whatever, to potentially dangerous people.
Well, we both have good friends who are very conservative about information they share, um, last names, and you know, uh, I I respect that. Um,
No doubt.
um, I think in today's world, it's hard to be anonymous doing what we do. So I guess I've accepted a certain amount of reality that my name's going to get out there one way or the other. You and I can keep our last names off the screen all we want because we're goofing off, but you know, people would find us if we never put our last name out there.
Right. Um, I guess I kind of had the same idea you did when we first started. First of all, when Julie mentioned it, I was like, yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? Um, there are steps that I have taken, both from a self protection standpoint. I'm in Texas, so you can kind of deduce what that means. Uh, where I'm protecting myself, but I'm not here all the time, obviously. And but I've done something. I've got different security measures and things that I've done to amp up my protection of my collection. And some stuff that's easily seen, some stuff that's not easily seen. I've been, I'm creative, and I think you need to be that way. I want to be prudent. I want to be smart. Um, and so
You're pretty open with your content about sharing your collection.
Yeah. And I'm pretty much an open book, right? I mean, I talk about my life, I talk about my kids, I talk about my
You
family.
talk about the financials on your cards.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it doesn't get much more out there.
right. And I think a lot of people, and it's funny how people don't talk about what they paid for a card, or that you can go look it up. It's not like it's difficult. Me not telling you doesn't mean I'm keeping some big secret from you. You can go figure that out if you want. It may not be the exact card, but you can get an idea of what they go for.
Yep.
It's not like I'm buying cards all the time at half price. So people can deduce that kind of stuff. And I've kind of taken you know, I'd rather enjoy the cards and share the cards and create some level of risk. I don't want to create unnecessary risk and stupid risk for me and my family. But I, it wouldn't be as I wouldn't love it as much as I do now since I've been able to share.
Are you more hesitant to have people over to see the collection if you don't know them as well? Do you question people's motives?
They don't come over unless I know them well.
Well,
Uh,
then,
I mean, that's just the bottom line. Random strangers don't come over here, or
you're not random. You know what I meant.
yeah, people in the hobby. If I don't know you well, you're not coming over to my house. And if you ask, hey, whenever I first meet someone and they'll say, hey, I got something I'd like to send you. I appreciate you here. I got a Juan Gonzalez card or something. They get a different address. They don't get my home address. People don't just get my cell number just because they ask for it. There's some research and due diligence that goes on my end to go, okay, who is this person? And ironically, if people are on YouTube they're already exposing themselves as well. So it's like, if they're going to get me, I can get that, kind of, not that I would, but you get my point.
Yeah.
It's not some secret guy. Who are you, or anything.
I think also the reality of it is individual collections. Somebody has to really target them, and they're a lot harder to sell on the secondary market than hitting a retail store. I
Right.
think that's why wax is always going to be the number one target.
Good point. It's not identifiable.
Yep.
It's not specifically identifiable. Obviously, I have tons of lists and inventories on the cloud of all my cards, all my slabs. So if somebody takes them, will I get them all back? I don't know, but there's going to be a way to figure it out. And, again, I just think you have to be smart.
Well, it's another reason to use the registries. It's another reason to have the insurance.
Yep.
I mean, these are just common sense things. When your collection doesn't have to be that large to take precautions.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard stories of, the cable guy came over and, saw a Michael Jordan card out and quickly in the pocket. And, where did that go?
So that's another great, when strangers are here working at my house or whatever, my card room they are not allowed back in this part of the house. So
Okay.
they never know what's back. Like if the cable guy, as you said, or the phone dude, or the heating and air conditioning, whoever it is, a random stranger only stays in the part of the house where there's no cards and nothing really it's just furniture and whatever, right? It's a house. So
You mean your regular life?
my regular life, that's right. But I keep everything closed and they're not allowed back there. So it obviously I don't know if I worry about strangers as much as I worry about people that kind of know me, if that makes sense. That person that pretends to be a friend but really has ulterior motives. That person scares me more than the random stranger.
Yeah. I mean, only because they know what they're doing more.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the scariest. Is you've been on the air for how many years, shown how many cards. You've shown the furniture. I mean, not to give away everything, but um, you know, I I have left this stuff up here and talked about it, and people know exactly what I have up on the wall. And I think both of us leave ourselves a little bit vulnerable, but it's got to be a big effort to break into one of our houses, and is the juice worth the squeeze? And I'm not sure for either one of us. If somebody's going to do, like you said, there's so many bigger collections,
Totally.
and that's
Yeah.
and that's something in general. Even getting back to my original point about just talking about whether or not you're comfortable showing your collection on, screen in general, and if you're a content creator making that decision, the, there's always somebody with a bigger collection. Never feel inferior in your collection, because it doesn't matter who it is. There's always a bigger collection, and whether or not you know that, there's private collections, like Mike said, that have never seen the light of the public and that are fantastic.
Yeah, there's always somebody with a bigger boat, as I say. And I don't, I can name 20 guys that I would say have better collections than I do, kind of using that word loosely and can be defined differently for everybody. To say better, uh, collections that I admire is probably the better way to put it. And I'm not envious or jealous. I'm excited for them. Uh, what's the word that I want to use? That's the proper word. I love it. I don't know how to else. I mean, I'm not jealous. I admire it.
Yeah, it's almost like a museum.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had, the Jefferson Burdick exhibit or whatever it is, but I don't. But I can still enjoy that it's somewhere, or that somebody has those cards, and that's part of the reason I think you and I both enjoy going to card shows. Quite frankly, also, not to get off topic, is we enjoy looking at cards.
Yeah. Yeah. We all go to card shows, and there's plenty of cards we can't afford to buy. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I'm sitting there just kicking myself over my inability to afford it. It's more, oh, that's cool. I would love to own one of those one day. It gives me something to aspire to. It gives me motivation, so to speak. And I definitely don't uh, feel bad. Going back to the protection issue, are there some things you can think of that you would advise people on protecting their collections? Like, is there like some tips?
If you live in a state with basements, do not you do not have your cards on the ground in the basement. Make sure they're off the ground. That's a natural weather protection. For security, just don't advertise it around the house. Mike's point is the best one you can have, is just don't acknowledge where the room is. Don't let everybody in the world go in and out. And if you're doing content creation, don't give out your address. You're giving out enough.
Yeah,
Get a PO box
those are all good points.
and get insurance. Get insurance. Get insurance. Get insurance. I'm sorry, I want to throw that out there.
No, I think that's a critical point, that no matter how big your collection is, you have to think, how much pain am I willing to feel if I lost it all in a natural disaster, or where, any way, any method of losing your collection. Some people insure their collections for full value, some to 50%, 80%, some number, that, and people think it's hard, and it's so not. There are companies that I use Collect Insure. There are different companies that do it, but
Well, stadium insurance.
there you go.
Right.
So there are different places that do that, and I think it's specifically for collectibles, whether it's stamps or coins or firearms or whatever. All of those things need protecting, and so uh, it's important to just think about how much pain you're willing to endure if you were to have a total loss.
Can we geek out on safes for a second?
Sure.
Firearm safes make fantastic card safes.
They're amazing.
If you want a category to shop under, if you've never bought a safe and you're not sure if it's good enough, firearm safes are the way to go.
Yep. 22 gun. is my, that's because they describe the size of the safe by how many guns it will hold. So
Well, it depends the size of the box and what you're storing, and if it's
fair enough.
yeah.
I'm a 22 or higher to me, and it would look at the dimensions, and you can. They're great card storage places as well. Yes.
Um, and I'm gonna give a shout out to people who protect the cards on the humidity and the natural environment. I think that's worth talking about. Just if we are talking about security and safety, light will damage your cards faster than any burglar will probably ever break into your home.
Yeah.
I
And
have blackout curtains everywhere, so all my cards here, I mean, they never get sunlight.
yeah, my plantation shutters over here are never open ever. Uh, during the middle of the day, if my lights are off, this room is insanely dark.
Yeah.
And my lights are off even when if I'm in here watching YouTube or whatever. The lights are all off. It's not bright in here. I only turn these on when I'm doing a video. That's it. Or looking specifically at a card that I need to see. The spotlight here that I can just use on a single card if I'm trying to read the back of the card or whatever. Tiny numbers, tiny letters.
Do you have the magnifier?
No, but that's what these are. These.
I didn't want to call you out exactly on those, but I saw you make a uniform change at halftime.
Yeah, these are just readers, but I keep finding myself increasing the magnification of my readers every so often as I age. It feels like I'm aging.
In my family, we call them cheaters, not readers.
Yeah, they are cheaters for sure. But you got a lot more handsome when I put these on. So,
well, your check's in the mail. And before we wrap it up, I just wanted to go over a couple of things. We're talking about safety and security. That also goes when you travel. I can't tell you how many people I've traveled with that they go to check into a hotel at a show and they leave their Pelican case on top of the cart, as they're checking in halfway across the hotel. Just use a little common sense. If you've never been out in the world, don't go for the first time alone with your cards. Take a friend. Use the buddy system. But I see people do really dumb things at shows with their cards. Leave everything in the car. You walk by a car, you see, the whole back seat's full of boxes of cards, and that blows me away. So just common sense.
Yeah, put stuff in the trunk for crying out loud, or don't bring more than you can keep on your person. Right? That's always a good idea. I know guys that are always afraid to bring cash to a show, and to me, it's just don't be flashy with it. Be smart. Don't whip out a stack of thousands of dollars and hundreds if you're right in front of everybody and flaunt it and all of that. Keep a low profile. Don't draw attention to yourself. All those types of things. I keep a pretty benign backpack with me, and it just doesn't look like, who knows what's in it. It could be a water bottle or a 51 or 52 mantle, who knows. And I want to leave a lot of that up to the imagination. I want to make it as nondescript as possible.
Do you feel you're most vulnerable at a show?
No.
Okay.
I don't. But again, I'm not one of those guys that is walking around with a Pelican case or buying big group. I buy a few cards, so they're easy to, honestly, I keep most of them in my pocket on purpose so that I can know where they are.
There you go. Yeah.
So that's how few cards I might be buying. And I'm not buying big, huge cases of cards and stuff. But if you're at a show and you're buying a lot of stuff, take the time to take it to your room or whatever. If you're staying in a hotel, or take it out to your car and put it in the trunk, or just and do it subtly, as best you can. And just, again, like you said, common sense should rule your decision making.
Yes. And it's sad how little common sense I see. at some shows. And if that makes me the jerk for saying it, I'll say it. But some people are really stupid with their cards.
Well, again, I think I've known guys that have walked around shows with 150 grand in cash in their backpack, and they're walking around like just a normal dude. And that makes sense. They're not bringing attention. It's no big deal. If you make it a big deal, it'll draw attention. And, you know, these are just normal dudes, right?
By the way, when I walk around with 150 grand, nobody can tell. It's just like I don't have it on me.
You look the same as you do now.
I was about to say, it's so good you couldn't tell.
So good you couldn't tell. Well, good topic. I would love people down below to, all the aspects of what we talked about tonight. And we hit a bunch of different points. We would love to hear your feedback, what you guys think, what precautions you take. That would be helpful for everyone else reading the comments. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. Any final thoughts, Danny?
No, fun and always too quick as always.
It is indeed.
And next week, 2 people will be talking.
Of 4 possible people.
Yes, same 4.
Same okay. 4 pool, 2 different ones every week. That's right. Keep that in mind. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon and keep collecting. See ya.